Well, it's time now for a look at some of the day's business news, and we're starting with what's shaping up to be the biggest IPO on Wall Street since Facebook. France 24's Cole Stangler is here to tell us more. Cole.
That's right, Hax. You may not have heard of this company yet, but a lot of American investors certainly have. Now, shares for the electric vehicle firm Rivian set to begin trading later today in New York City. They're priced at $78 a share, giving the firm a market value of some $66.5 billion. It makes it the biggest initial public offering on Wall Street in a decade, setting the bar very high for the firm backed by Amazon and Ford. Rivian makes electric pickup trucks and SUVs with plans to sell delivery vans as well, though like many startups, as you can see here, it's yet to turn a profit, losing about $750 million in the last quarter. Meanwhile, Europe's second highest court is set to make a highly anticipated ruling later this morning. It'll decide whether the European Commission was right to impose a €2.4 billion fine against Google. Back in 2017, the EU said the tech giant was violating fair competition rules, specifically by favoring its own shopping service over those of its rivals. It's the first of what ultimately became 3 separate antitrust rulings from the EU against Google. After the ruling from the Luxembourg-based General Court today, either side could then appeal up to the European Court of Justice. Well, turning now to some of the day's trading action. European markets at the open posting some very slight gains here, as you can see, including on the CAC 40 here in Paris, up over 0.1%. Over in Frankfurt, some slight gains as well. That's despite shares for Adidas down after the company downgraded its sales outlook. Investors in Europe also awaiting a key inflation reading coming out of the United States later today. Meanwhile, most of the Asian indexes posting losses. As you can see there, investors reacting to bigger than expected inflation numbers coming out of China. The Hang Seng also posting losses right across the board there: Tokyo, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and Seoul. Well, meanwhile, leaders from the group of Asian Pacific nations known as APEC are holding their annual summit. This year's edition is hosted online by New Zealand and, as usual, aims to stress the benefits of free trade. But there are tensions around a regional trade pact known as the CPTPP. Both Taiwan and China have sought to join. A very delicate issue, both geopolitically and economically.
Going to prejudge what China might have to change or do. What the members of CPTPP have committed to is to maintaining the high standards that were hard fought, hard won, and I don't think anyone has a view that there should be any movement from those standards. So it's up to the applicant economies to reach the standards that we have set and that we believe work well for us.
Well, staying in New Zealand for this next one, where director Peter Jackson is selling his special effects firm, Weta Digital. It's being acquired by Unity Software for $1.6 billion. The California firm hopes to use the technology to help develop the so-called metaverse. That's a theorized future iteration of the internet with elements of virtual reality. The director of Avatar and the Lord of the Rings trilogy called the deal, quote, a game changer, providing a pathway for artists to leverage creative and powerful tools. And finally, a legendary Parisian department store is gearing up for the holiday season. Just months after a long-awaited reopening, the revamped La Samaritaine will be open around Christmas for the first time in 16 years. Managers say they're already drawing in customers from outside the area. Take a listen.
Obviously, at the beginning of the opening, we focused more on Parisians and French people. Then with the reopening of borders, we saw international tourists coming back. First Europeans, then people living in the Middle East, and more recently Americans. And today in the store, you can hear many foreign languages being spoken. It's great. They all mix together happily and cheerfully.
You know, Haxie, we've been talking a lot about the return of European tourists to the United States. Also important not to forget those American and foreign tourists that are coming back to Europe as well.
And it's nice to see them back in Paris.
Yeah.
Cole Stangler, nice to see you here for the business news. Thank you very much.